Up here, Jim.
I'll wear that here now.
Here, open them up here.
They used to carry the tricolours all the time.
Everybody, Minister for Business, Enterprise and Innovation, Heather Humphrey, Cathaoirleach of Cavan County Council, Madeleine Argue, Chairman of Enniskillen Council, Howard Staunton, Lieutenant Colonel Kieran Carey, OC 27 Battalion, Chief Superintendent John Riley, representatives of various faiths, serving members of all forces, friends, ladies and gentlemen, you're all very welcome, and thank you for coming today to our ecumenical wreath laying service. It's fitting that the last event of this fantastic military and historical event is a memorial service to remember the fallen heroes of the Defence Forces. Because when the majority of us are sitting at home relaxing on the couch, watching TV, a brave few answered a call and stood on that front line. And the very fact that this is a memorial service reminds us that not everyone who stood on that front line came home. And when they saw their colleagues fall, others took their place on that front line to keep us safe, to keep the world safe, and keep democracy safe. And for that, we thank you, and today we remember you. And we remember you with the laying of wreaths, which is how the military have honoured their fallen heroes since the time of Greek civilization. So that is what we're going to do today. And I will call our first speaker to come to the podium. And it is Madeleine Argue, Cathaoirleach of Cavan Council. And to our friends from Northern Ireland, Cathaoirleach is the Irish for the chairman. So Madeleine Argue, Cathaoirleach, Cavan Chamber.
Thank you, Colin. Good afternoon, everyone. As Cathaoirleach of Cavan County Council, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to Cavan for this spectacular military and historical event. This event, which is the first of its kind in the county, has been organised by Olgaid Nashuna Nahairn, O'Neill branch in partnership with the Royal British Legion, Enniskillen. And we have already enjoyed some wonderful parades, reenactments, talks and exhibitions over the past 2 days. Cavan County Council is delighted to support this event, which has been funded by the EU's Peace 4 programme, managed by the special EU programmes body. And I want to just acknowledge the work of Jane Crudden, in securing this funding. Peace 4 funding supports cross-community and cross-border initiatives, such as this weekend's event. And we in Cavan are honoured to host guests from neighbouring Fermanagh and indeed from many other counties across this island. Military history is at the heart of this island's story, both through conflict on our own shores and overseas, and in later years through our peacekeeping role across the world. This acknowledgement of our military history is particularly relevant at the present time as we mark the centenary of a number of historical milestones during our decade of commemorations. This event has been a wonderful opportunity to continue to raise awareness of the history of conflict and its impact on those affected, and to acknowledge the sacrifice of those involved. It is crucially important that we acknowledge and remember the people that have lost their lives through war, and particularly those that died in the First World War, which ended a century ago this year. This event is also an opportunity to explore how we have moved away from the conflict on this island. It is a chance to celebrate the peacemakers and the peacekeepers. I'd like to thank again all those involved in making this event happen and in making it such a success. At this stage, I just want to acknowledge Jimmy Scanlon and his team for all the work they have put into it. I hope those of you visiting from near and far enjoy your trip and return to Cavan as soon to experience more of what Cavan has as a county has to offer. Coramila Mayogov. Thank you.
Courthouse, Cavan Council, Madeline, thank you for those wonderful words. I now call on our colleague from across the border, Chairman of Enniskillen Council, Mr. Howard Staunton.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is a great honour and privilege that I've been asked to come down to this today. It's Jimmy Scanlon who invited me here today, along with the British Legion from Enniskillen. It is cross-border, it is cross-community, it all is a wonderful event here today. And I want to thank all those that have organised it and are partaking in it today. And this, I hope, will be the first of many, with continued cooperation between the British Legion in Enniskillen and yourselves. And the purpose of today is obviously to remember those who have given their lives for their country. Defence forces, World War I, whatever. So I thank you for the honour of being here today amongst you. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Howard Staunton from Enniskillen Council. I'd now like to call upon Minister Heather Humphreys. Minister Humphreys is the Minister for Business, Enterprise and Innovation, but more importantly, she's our TD and our Minister from Cavan Monaghan. Minister Humphreys.
Cahirlock of Cavan County Council, Councillor Madeleine Argue, Deputy Brendan Smith, Councillors, Chairman of Fermanagh and Omagh District Council, Reverend Clergy, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. And firstly, I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all veteran associations whose members are present with us today. And I bring apologies from my colleagues, Senator Joe O'Reilly and Senator Jimard Wilson, who unfortunately can't be here. Can I say that I'm very humbled myself to be here today to pay tribute to those who have fallen in the service of their countries. Much has been spoken in the context of the generations of people lost in the Great War, including many Irish people who fought alongside their comrades of many nations. Many of you are aware that here in Ireland we are remembering and reflecting on the story of our own nation through the Decade of Centenaries commemoration programme, which encompasses major historical happenings from 1912 to 1923. It is incumbent on us all to ensure that our commemorations are inclusive and respectful of all traditions. And it was that spirit of inclusivity that I wanted to achieve during the 2016 commemorations, and I have no doubt it will continue through the remainder of the Decade of Centenaries. We have a responsibility to remember the events in the full context of our history and to honour the people whose courage and idealism inspired a nation. It is my great privilege to represent the government at an event like this, which provides us with the opportunity to look back on the journey we have taken with a strong focus on our joint history and shared experiences. We recall some of the most significant events in the history of modern Ireland and the modern world. A decade of unprecedented violence, death, destruction, and forced resettlement, but also the exercise of national self-determination, resulting in major changes in government and political boundaries, the development of a modern Irish democracy, and universal adult suffrage. I believe that commemorations can and should be a constructive avenue to broaden sympathies without having to abandon loyalties, and in particular to recognise the value of ideals and sacrifices, including their cost. It is important, therefore, not to forget the bloodshed and the deep antagonisms of those early years of the 20th century and the challenges that followed. While few eyewitnesses survive today, the impacts remain vivid for many in affected families and communities, and accordingly we must acknowledge that commemorations can revive painful memories for some. We should also be conscious that on this island we have a common history, but not a common memory of these shaping events. Commemorations should not ignore differences and divisions. The goal of inclusiveness is best achieved not by trying for an enforced common interest or universal participation, but by encouraging multiple and plural commemorations. Events such as today prompt us to recall shared loss of loved ones, while bringing to mind the sacrifice, the courage and idealism of our forebears who laid the foundation for the freedoms we enjoy in our time. We can be justifiably proud of the progress that has been achieved by our communities and societies who share a common heritage of humanity and democracy. We will continue to ensure that all narratives will be heard and reflect appropriately on all of the major historical events of a century ago. Today's event gives us a pause for thought to reflect on the responsibility that we share to maintain peace and stability, which will honour the courage, the dignity and ideals that characterised the participants in those historical events. Finally, I would like to thank all veterans here today and remind them that we are committed to remembering the contribution that they have made to stability and peace. We extend the heartfelt appreciation of our generation to you for your loyalty and courage. And I want to thank the organisers for the huge work and commitment you put into this project, and I want to especially recognise and thank the chairman, Jimmy Scanlon. Finally, thank you for the invitation to join you here on this very special day, and I just want to wish you all a very enjoyable afternoon. Thank you very much. Gura Míle Maithagh.
Thank you, Minister Humphrey, for those wonderful words. It is a memorial service, and, you know, we are remembering our dead of all faiths. So we are blessed today to be joined by several members of several faiths. I will then ask them to come up to the podium together to show unity and recite a prayer to remember our fallen. So I'll ask Cantor Schulman, Father Kevin Fay, and seeing representing the Sikh faith to come up to the podium and recite their prayers. And if any members of religion have come since I started, please make your way as well. So the three religions making their way together. And perhaps Cantor Schulman might begin.
May our merciful Father, who dwells on high, remember in his infinite mercy all those valiant and upright men and women who served in time of war and who gave their lives in the line of duty. Let us never forget the sacrifice of those who served and fought so boldly for justice, freedom, and for the dignity of the human race. They were beloved and precious in their lives, and they are not parted from their loved ones, even in death. May the efforts and sacrifice of those we honor today be transformed into the blessing of peace throughout the world. May God grant peace in the land and joy for its inhabitants. May He spread harmony, unity, and healing between nations. And may we see the fulfillment of the verse, "Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, nor shall they learn war anymore." And let us say, Amen.
Thank you, Cantor. I'll now ask Father Cavan Fay from the Roman Catholic faith approach the podium and recite a prayer in remembrance.
We remember all those who died in World War I and all deceased members of the Defence Forces, people who carried out their duties for the good of our country, people who were brave and courageous in all that they did. None of those persons are ever truly alone. Those who live no more, whom we remember, echo still within our thoughts, our words and our hearts. And what they did and who they were becomes part of what we are forever. We remember them eternally.
Thank you, Father Cavan Fay. I'll now ask a representative of the Sikh religion, Singh, to approach the podium, and he will be reciting the prayer in his own language.
Hello, first of all, I would like to say thanks to all of you as thanks from the column who invited us for a great event, and we are feeling really honorable and privileged to be here, and thanks for all the Cavan community members, and because our priest, he couldn't speak in English, so I would invite him to do prayer in our language, which is Punjabi. So I am just invited him. Thank you.
ਹਾਰਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵਸ ਰਹੇ ਸਾਰੇ ਜੋ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸੀ ਹਨ, ਇਸ ਜੋ ਪ੍ਰੋਗਰਾਮ ਹੈ ਫੌਜੀਆਂ ਦੀ ਯਾਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਨਾਇਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਸਾਰਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਵੈਲਕਮ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣ ਤੇ ਆਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਨੇ ਸ਼ਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਪ੍ਰਾਪਤ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ ਹਨ ਆਪਣੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਆਨ ਸ਼ਾਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਸਾਰੀ ਸਿੱਖ ਕਮਿਊਨਿਟੀ ਵੱਲੋਂ, ਸਾਰੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਵਾਸੀਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਸ਼ਰਧਾ ਦੇ ਫੁੱਲ ਭੇਟਾ ਕੀਤੇ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹਨ। ਆਸ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਜੋ ਡਿਊਟੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਨ ਫੌਜੀ, ਸੋ ਆਪਣੀ ਬਲਬੁੱਧ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨ, ਸਤਿਗੁਰੂ ਪਾਤਸ਼ਾਹ ਅਕਾਲ ਪੁਰਖ ਕਿਰਪਾ ਕਰਨ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬਲਬੁੱਧ ਵਾਸਤੇ ਕਰਨ, ਆਪਣੇ ਦੇਸ਼ ਦੀ ਰਾਖੀ ਕਰਨ ਵਾਸਤੇ। ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਖਾਲਸਾ, ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ।
Thank you. I'll now ask Reverend Tanya Wood from the Church of Ireland to say a prayer of remembrance for those who have fallen.
As we remember the past, we look towards the future. And the future, we want peace. We don't want to have services like this for people of our generation. So we pray for harmony. Gracious God, you have promised to make all things new. And we ask that you will fulfill this promise here in Ireland and throughout our world, praying that you will give repentance to those who are prisoners of sin, praying that you will restore love where there has been hatred, praying that you will renew trust where there has been suspicion, and send peace where there has been conflict, relieve suffering where there has been violence, and grant serenity where there has been fear. And we ask you, Lord, to recreate concord in our midst for the good of your children and for the future of our community, country, and world. In the name of Jesus, in whom all that counts is a new creation. Amen.
Amen. No doubt, when somebody fell in battle, and they were doing it for the right cause, they went straight to meet their God. But the families left behind, no doubt, got solace and comfort from the words of their own religions. We thank you all for coming and saying the prayers that matter to you. Next part, we'll have the Peace Pledge, and that will be recited by Nigel Beresford. Nigel is going to recite the Peace Pledge, but when he's finished, he's also going to just mention one name from each county in Ulster who fell during the war. So Nigel Beresford is about to recite the Peace Pledge.
Good afternoon, everyone. On November the 11th, 1998, President MacAleese, Queen Elizabeth II, and King Albert of Belgium opened the Island of Ireland Peace Park on Messine Ridge near Ypres in Belgium. The memorial site is dedicated to the soldiers of Ireland, of all political and religious beliefs, who died, were wounded, or missing in the Great War of 1914-1918. Irish men and women served with the armies of Australia, Britain, Canada, New Zealand, South Africa, and the United States. A bronze plaque near the entrance of the Island of Ireland Peace Park is inscribed with a peace pledge. From the crest of this ridge, which was the scene of terrific carnage in the First World War, on which we have built a peace park and round tower to commemorate the thousands of young men from all parts of Ireland who fought a common enemy, defended democracy and the rights of all nations, whose graves are in shockingly uncountable numbers, and those who have no graves. We condemn war and the futility of war. We repudiate and denounce violence, aggression, intimidation, threats, and unfriendly behaviour. As Protestants and Catholics, we apologise for the terrible deeds we have done to each other and ask forgiveness. From this sacred shrine of remembrance, where soldiers of all nationalities, creeds, and political allegiances were united in death, we appeal to all people in Ireland to help build a peaceful and tolerant society. Let us remember the solidarity and trust that developed between Protestant and Catholic soldiers when they served together in these trenches. As we jointly thank the armistice of 11th of November 1918, when the guns fell silent along the Western Front, we affirm that a fitting tribute to the principles for which men and women from the island of Ireland died in both wars would be a permanent peace. Now, 3 pillars in the Memorial Park commemorate the killed, wounded, or missing of each of the 3 Irish divisions who fought with the British Army in World War I. The 10th Irish Division, 9,363 casualties. The 16th Irish Division, 28,398 casualties. And the 36th Ulster Division, 32,186 casualties. We will remember them. Now, I've tried to pick out 9 names from the 9 counties of Ulster who died 100 years ago on or around this date. I'll start with Francis Sidney Barker, Belfast, rifleman, 2nd Battalion, Royal Irish Rifles. Died of wounds, 17th of August, 1918. John James Fulton, Plumbridge, County Tyrone. Private, 1st Battalion, Royal Inniskillen and Fusiliers. Killed in action, 22nd of August, 1918. John McElwee, Londonderry. Private, 1st Battalion, Royal Inniskillen and Fusiliers. Killed in action, 29th of August, 1918. John Maguire, Lara, County Monaghan. Private, 1st Battalion, Royal Irish Fusiliers. Died of wounds, 25th of August, 1918. William Cuthbert, Clooney, County Donegal. Private, 13th Battalion, Royal Inniskillen Fusiliers. Killed in action, 27th of August 1918. Philip Fay, Coot Hill, County Cavan. Driver, 2nd Battery, New Zealand Field Artillery. Died 25th of August 1918. Thomas Dixon, Dramara, County Down. Gunner, Royal Field Artillery. Died of wounds 29th of August 1918. Robert Dempsey, Glenarm, County Antrim. Rifleman, 1st Battalion, Royal Irish Rifles. Killed in action 23rd of August 1918. Adam G. Kelly, Armagh, Private, North Irish Horse. Killed in action 26th of August 1918. And finally, but not least, James Carney, Enniskillen, County Fermanagh. Corporal, 1st Battalion, Royal Enniskillen Fusiliers. Killed in action 25th of August 1918. We will remember them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. Not just for the peace pledge, but for putting for names on 9 individuals. I know millions died, but if today we can focus on 9, it makes it more real. And perhaps to remember those 9 and everybody else, we will now start the Wreath Laying Ceremony. So again, I will ask Minister Heather Humphreys to come up to the centre and be presented with her wreath. 2 members of the Defence Force. And place the wreath on the memorial, those who gave their lives, not only for Irish freedom, but for world freedom. Thank you, Minister. Next 2 wreaths will be laid by representatives from the Garda and the Army. Gardaí and Army, both who have lost members here in Ireland and away. Again, paying their respects to their fallen comrades. Our next wreath will be placed by the Civil Defence. Civil Defence, often referred to as the 4th branch of the military, always there to back up when needed. To show the cooperation that's now between North and South and how good it is, we have both chairmans from Enniskillen and from Cavan, County Council, next to come up and lay a wreath. So Cavan Council, Courthouse, Madeline Argue, and Enniskillen's Council Chairman, Howard Staunton, together, showing the respect both counties and both countries have for each other. We can both here remember all our dead. Thank you, both chairpersons. Our next wreaths will be laid by the Organisation of National Ex-Servicemen and the Irish United Nations Veterans Association. National ex-servicemen and as UN vets. Both our representatives, no doubt, will be remembering specific fallen colleagues. Just to make the solemn walk up to the memorial and pay the respect soldiers have been paying to each other for centuries. Thank you. War and casualties in war are international. So we are joined by colleagues from France today, and I will ask Francesco to come up on behalf of the Carabinieri. And I read on behalf of the fallen from your country, from Ireland, and worldwide. So Francesco from the Italian, I think I miscalled your country, my apologies for that. Italian Carabinieri Francesco. Proudly remembering the dead of his country. We are now joined by two representatives from the British Legion. They will make their way, be presented with their poppy wreaths. Sorry, they have their poppy wreaths with them. British Legion traveled over the border to remember their dead and our dead. Because unfortunately borders don't distinguish between fallen comrades who we're all here to honour. Thank you, gentlemen. Our final wreath will be placed by a representative of the 5th Enniskillen Dragoon Guards. Thank you, gentlemen, for coming to show your respect. I am told we have one more wreath from the Ex-Gardas Association. Thank you, and thank you to everybody who laid wreaths in mark of respect of those who have fallen. We will shortly have the last post. The last post will be followed by a minute's silence, then we'll have the Piper's Lament. So we will have the last post, minute's silence, followed immediately by the Piper's Lament. minute silence. Piper's Lament. Next we have the raising of the national flag, followed by reveille. Followed by the national anthem. Thank you. Our final act will be a volley. I will remind anyone who has sensitive hearing to maybe cover their ears, but we'll have 3 volleys from the Battle of Ashbourne Commemorative Committee. Thank you. And that wraps up the official part of the ceremony. I will ask our chairman, Jimmy Scanlon, to make an address.
Well, chairman of this organisation, I would like to welcome here today Heather Humphreys, our minister, local minister, Brendan McTD, and Cahill of Cavan County Council, Madeleine Argue, and Norman Staunton, the chair of Fermanagh, South Tyrone, and all other guests, and 4 religious people that are here today. I would just like to thank everyone for coming here today and making this possible. We started out back last August, July, August, trying to get this up and going. We had our ups and downs, and we eventually got there. I have to thank the Peace Folk program, Jane Crumb, who helped us along in a very helpful way and got us through getting this up and going. And without her, we would not be here today. A few other people I would like to we have a good few people that helped us out, but the three main ones are the Farnham Arms Hotel Cavan, Michael Shields and Mrs. Anne Shields, who helped us out enormously in this event, and I would like to give them a hand. Mark Kiernan of Kiernan Millings for Granard. Without him, I don't think we'd have had half the vehicles here today that we have down at the courthouse, and I'd like to give him a hand. And the Chamber of Commerce in Cavan, who helped us out with a good lot too, and to Column here, and who done the MC today. I'd like to thank them. And also I would like to thank the guards who gave us great help. Inspector Michael O'Donoghue, who was with us all through it, Michael Duffy, who helped us out as well, and Chief Super O'Reilly, who was here today. And without these, we mightn't have been here without their help. And also I would like to thank the Civil Defence, who provided first aid and also put on a wonderful display up in the courthouse, and the fire brigade who was there present there. There was to go on all day and there was too many to thank, but I'd like to thank all the exhibitors that came, especially Kieran Flynn and Jim Sherrard, who from the north, who were behind us from the start. And I'd like to thank you all again and hope we can run a similar event next year. Thank you all.
Thank you, Jimmy, the hardest working chairman in the county. As Jimmy said, that is the end of what is no doubt going to be the annual Cavan military and historical event. Next year we'll be back bigger and better. Thank you to those who took part, helped organise it, and those who just came along to look. So until we meet again, safe home and thank you.